Hello internet, hello YouTube, this is NCSO7 here, and I think you guys can tell based on how much I stream this game, how much I've played this game in the past, that I really like GTA 5. And today, I'm here to finally review this game and give it a bit more of a critical eye. So, yeah. So, the way this review will be set up is a bit different from usual. I will still have most of my categories, however, I am going to divide the video up between the story mode and the online mode. So, yeah, I'll ultimately be doing two reviews because they're not really necessarily the same game. Anyways, let's start off with the story mode of GTA 5 and talk about that first. Now, presentation is always a key factor in a game. If a game doesn't have a very good presentation, why even play it? Thankfully, GTA 5 has a great presentation. Basically, it's an open world game, so that right there sounds pretty good, and it has so much in there. There's so much to do, which I'll get into later, but there's so much to do in such a beautiful looking city and place. Seriously, and this game looks beautiful. I'll be honest, it looks pretty good sometimes, although there are times that I think the game could look a little better, but I'm not really complaining that much. Playing this thing on PS4 is great. It looks beautiful, and not only that, it runs beautifully as well. Usually keeping at a 30 FPS frame rate from what I could tell. Maybe it's 60, but I'm not sure. I couldn't really tell. Anyways, moving on to the story. Pretty good. It basically revolves around three playable characters, Franklin, Michael, and Trevor. And essentially, you just pull heists and just do whatever. Honestly, play the game for yourself. It's pretty good though. It isn't super deep, but it's still very decent nonetheless. It definitely gives you a very good story in GTA. And I'll be honest though, and I don't want to spoil this, but I will say that the last part of the game definitely made things a lot more tense. But it's great. It's great. And of course, we gotta talk about the gameplay. One of the things that GTA has been known for generations. Well, like I said before, it's an open world game, so you can do anything you want in the game. And I mean anything. Even stuff that could break the law. You can just, I don't know, kill 100 or so policemen to get a high wanted level. You can do that. You want to just play golf by yourself? You can do that. You want to get drunk with some friends? You can do that. You can do so much in this game, and that is what I love about GTA 5. There's so much to do, and it's usually lots of fun doing it. But I'll get a little bit more into all of those activities later on. But going back to the gameplay though, the gameplay is really good. You basically can move around, you can shoot, you can drive. And I'll be honest, driving's pretty good as well, as the game has a huge selection of cars and other vehicles to drive. You can in like a plane or a tank, because why not? Honestly, the gameplay is really good, even though it isn't necessarily the best out there, because there is one thing that I do wish about this game. Fast travel options. In almost every other open world game I've played, there is some form of fast travel. However, here though, there really isn't. There isn't much fast travel unless you just have a really good vehicle. But not everyone is going to have that. So you just have to drive there. So if you want to get to a specific spot that could be on the other side of the map, you'd have to drive over there, rather than just using a fast travel point. Compare this to something like Breath of the Wild. Essentially in Breath of the Wild, if you want to get to the other side of the map, you can easily do that by bringing up your map and traveling over to that side using either a shrine or a tower that you find. In Marvel Spider-Man, you can use various police stations and various subways to get your way around New York. Here though, in Los Santos, you can't do that. And it's one of those things that I feel could have been a little bit better. However, it's not that big of a deal. Now, I don't know if they were doing this because they wanted to make the game realistic or not. I'm not sure. But it's not a very big deal though. Really though, playing the game at all is fun. I mean, even just driving to a location far away can still be fun. But overall, gameplay is very good and controls beautifully. The game controls completely fine. There's not really much to say. So now let's get into the content of the game. Now, I will just say it right now, for 30 bucks, or however much you paid for it, anything 60 or under, this game is 100% worth it. Even though this game is 7 years old at the time of making this video, it still holds up great. There is so much to do. Like I said before, there's a lot of activities you can do. Now, one of the main things you're going to be doing is completing missions. Missions are basically the main way to complete the game. You essentially pull off various heist setups and various heists and even other stuff that happens in between. Heck, even one point where you actually travel back to the area that the prologue takes place in. But I'm not going to say what happens there because it might be a bit of a spoiler. Also, there's a lot of submissions as well, and a lot of side quests, whether it's just taking pictures of something or killing a bunch of people, and there's other stuff you can do. There's so much to do. Honestly, I don't even really want to list it all off because I just say play the game for yourself. Play the game for yourself and you will see exactly what I mean. It's great. There's a lot of stuff to do. Now, in terms of all the stuff being fun to do, sometimes. Most of the time it's fun, but remember how I said before that there isn't really a fast travel option? Well, that's kind of my problem with some of the missions and other stuff you have to do. Sometimes you'll start at one place and you have to drive all the way over to a specific location so that way you can actually, go through the mission. So, and now I'll be honest, driving in this game is great, but I feel like it feels like padding to really make you drive this much to get to the other side of the map, just so that way you can just actually get your mission started. It's very annoying, and it's one of those things that I do feel like is kind of padding, and it can be just kind of frustrating because sometimes it can just take forever to get there, that it makes you just want to only complete like a few missions at a time per day. But I don't know. Honestly though, the game is still really good, and it has so much content. And that doesn't even include the online portion, which we'll get to that in a little bit. But content-wise, it's great, and soundtrack-wise, it's great. There isn't really much to say. There is so much music in this game, so you'll never really get tired at all. It even uses bigger songs out there as well, such as stuff like The Next Episode, Still Dre, and Afro Puffs. Those are the only ones I know off the top of my head. But there's a lot of music in the game. So overall, GTA 5 Story Mode is amazing. There isn't really much to say about it. It's great. There's really no other way to put it. I'm pretty sure that most of you guys would play it yourself because, I mean, come on, this is one of the best-selling games of all time. From what I know, the second best-selling. So I'm pretty sure most of you guys already know that. And for the story mode, it's great. There isn't really much to say. And that's where I would end this review if there wasn't the fact that there's also an online portion that's pretty different. And let's make our way to the online portion. So I'll start this off with presentation, the exact same as before, except though when you are in public sessions, the frame rate can seem to dip quite a bit. At least for me. Also, if lag comes into play, sometimes you'll just spawn in weird spots sometimes. I don't know. It can be a little annoying, but it ultimately runs fine as long as there's not too much going on. And there isn't really much of a story, so yeah. And in terms of the gameplay, it's pretty good. It's the same thing as GTA 5, but there's a lot more to do. But we'll get to that later. But ultimately, in terms of gameplay, it's pretty good. However, though, there is one issue with the gameplay, and that is public sessions and trying to actually fight other people. So, I don't know how many of you guys know about this term. It's a term that a lot of us know. Tryhards. Tryhards have been around since the prehistoric ages and are some of the most annoying people ever in GTA 5. Ever since the 1920s, these guys were constantly running around Los Santos and killing other people just so they can get a higher KD ratio, which doesn't mean anything at all. And this is very annoying because there are a lot of things you need to do in public sessions, whether it's cargo or possibly even just setups or stuff for your heist that you'd either have to buy otherwise. And I also don't like the fact that you have to do certain things in the public sessions, or you have to pay a hefty fee for that. I find that kind of annoying because I feel like it's just not great, because public sessions could be very hit or miss. Also, why is it that every time I go into a public session, I can always hear some little kid talking? Ugh. But honestly though, the gameplay is pretty good for the most part. But there is definitely a lot more to talk about when it comes to content. But the controls first. Honestly, the game controls fine. Moving on. Now, the content, and this is probably the best thing to do, because once you're kind of done with GTA 5 story mode, if you haven't touched the online, it might be worth doing, because there's a lot more you can do in the online mode as opposed to the story mode. Now, obviously, one of the things I've kind of mentioned before is that you can play with other friends, and that is beautiful. It works very well. All you really have to do is get in the same session, and there you go. You can do whatever you want. However, there's a lot more you can do. You can load up various jobs that you can do. You can load up various races, and even just other adversary modes, such as sumo, deadline, deathmatch, survival, and all of this stuff. So much stuff. And even just other missions that you can do just to gain money. There is so much to do in the online portion, and it never really feels that old. Just mix up what you do every now and then, and you'll have infinite fun. I 100% promise. And when you do play this with somebody who knows what they're doing, oh man, is it fun. The game really gets good. However though, there are as many people as there are that know what they're doing, there's also a good amount of people that don't know what they're doing. And that can be annoying, especially when you're trying to get money, whether it's completing missions or heist setups or cargo. There's always going to be that one person that'll do something about it. And Rockstar really hasn't done that much about it either, so yeah. But honestly though, in terms of content, it's great though. And soundtrack wise, same as the main game. So final thoughts regarding the GTA Online. It's pretty good, however, it is not as much fun in public sessions. There are way too many random variables, and it really sucks because public sessions are what you're going to need for most of the stuff that you need to do in order to actually get a lot of money. Which sucks. But honestly though, that's just kind of how the game is. So, yeah. And there's not really much we're going to be able to do about tryhards, so that does kind of stink. But even so though, the online portion of the game is great. Absolutely great. Will keep you playing for hours on end. Or days on end if you're like me. Not really. But that's the online portion. And now, what do I think of the game overall, combining both the story mode and the online? Well, connect the dots. Honestly, one of the best games I've ever played. And I know a lot. And I know I did get a bit critical here and there. But to be honest, this game is amazing. And honestly, most of my criticisms I have for the game aren't big. There's just not a lot for me to really say. It's just a well-designed game. And yeah. So on my scale of 0 to 10, I know it sounds kind of obvious, but I'm of course putting GTA 5 at 9 out of 10. I don't think the game is necessarily perfect, because I do think that Rockstar has been milking the crap out of GTA 5, which that'll be a discussion for another day. However though, this game is still so great. If you haven't played it yet, well, I mean, do you even exist? But honestly though, if you haven't played it yet, please do. It's a great game and whatnot. But I think most of you can already tell that. I mean, given how much I've had in my streams, I think it's kind of obvious, but it's still fun making this video. So let me know what you guys think of GTA 5 in the comments. Do you guys love the story mode and just love playing as Franklin, Trevor, and Michael? Or do you just hate tryhards that just destroy your cargo? Well, let me know in the comments below, and I will see you guys next time. Peace.
It's showtime! Did you enjoy the show? Well, time for the highlight.